March, during our 5 Days of Faith special series on God and religion, a viewer emailed us with the following request. I think bringing up the God delusion is an appropriate topic for the show. It would be great to have at it. Asked and answered. Richard Dawkins and his critics, tonight on your agenda.
Tonight on the agenda with Steve Paikin.
Today, we pray for John.
Goodbye to all that. Evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins on the God delusion.
Could you use a quote?
And on the debate.
Well, we have some quotes here.
Can reason alone explain this?
Wagner family is handing out coats, hats, and mitts to the homeless.
Or this?
They were here to do good deeds. Over 200 volunteers came to the Daily Bread Food Bank to help the needy.
Or this?
And just like that, multi-billionaire Warren Buffett handed over his legacy to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Are we good because of God? And Richard Dawkins. That's tonight on your agenda.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin.
And joining us now is Oxford University's Richard Dawkins, author of The God Delusion. Welcome to Canada. Welcome to TVO.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here. I want to start by quoting an excerpt from your book in which you actually quote somebody else, and it goes like this. When one person suffers from a delusion, it is called insanity. When many people suffer from a delusion, it is called religion. Why is it appropriate to call religious people delusional?
I think because it's wrong, and because it's the same kind of error as people are quite used to dealing with when it's something like a fairy story, a Hans Andersen fairy story, and you believe in magic spells and frogs turning into princes and things. If anybody really believed that, you'd call it a delusion. And what religious people believe is pretty much the same. But because millions of people believe it, we don't call it a delusion, we call it a religion.
Don't stop at millions. Billions. Billions believe it.
Sure.
Have you, in which case, do you know of any individual who has read this book in particular, or perhaps any of your previous writings, who believes in God, who has read your work or heard you speak, and thought, you know what, this guy's right, I'm changing my mind, I'm no longer sure?
There's a section of my website, richarddawkins.net, called Converts Corner. And there are lots of them there. You can go and look them up.
And why did they convert?
I think probably they hadn't really thought about it very much before, and I don't think I've converted any really deep, dyed-in-the-wool religious people. But I think there are people who haven't really bothered to give it very much thought. They've got better things to do. And then they discover when they read a book like mine, not just mine, but other books like that, that actually they don't believe it, and they are not in fact religious.
Although I don't know, I don't know if it's right to call you a full-blown atheist, given that you do allow for, you do say in the book, I allow for the possibility that God may exist.
It's not reasonable for a scientist to say I absolutely know anything like that. So you know, I'm an agnostic about fairies, and so are you. But we don't really separate ourselves from somebody who doesn't believe in fairies. In practice, we don't believe in fairies.
You hedging your bets a bit?
Not in the least. I mean, I'm doing, well, no more than you are when you say you don't believe in fairies. I mean, do you believe in fairies?
Not today.
No, be serious. I mean,
do I believe in fairies?
Yes.
No.
No, you don't. But I mean, technically, you're agnostic about fairies because you can't disprove them. And that's exactly the sense in which I'm agnostic about God.
You say religion has a privileged spot in our society. What do you mean by that?
It is expected that religion will be treated with this kind of respect which you wouldn't treat a political belief or a devotion to a particular kind of music or a football team or something of that sort. It has a license to get away with things which other beliefs do not. It's thought to be bad manners or bad form to criticize somebody's religion in the way that you are not forbidden to criticize their politics.
Is it entitled to have that position in our society?
I don't think it is. I don't think there's any reason, or at least, at very least, a good case should be made why it's entitled to it, and no case has been made.
No case has ever been made that satisfies you, in other words?
Yes, I think that if you're going to say that something is immune to criticism, then a very special case has to be made.
Is there nothing special about religion that you believe entitles it to somewhat different treatment than politics or sports or anything else in society?
No.
Nothing at all.
Well, can you think of anything?
Well, the fact that there are billions of people who adhere to it, you know, leads one to suggest that it ought to be taken seriously.
You can take it seriously because there are billions of people. That doesn't mean you have to treat it with undue respect. It doesn't mean you have to say, I will not say a word against this because it's religion, any more than you would say that about a political opinion.
Do you have a view as to who Jesus was?
Well, if he existed, which he probably did, he was a Jewish teacher, of which there were many. He was one of quite a lot of similar teachers around at the time, and he seems to have gathered a following. He got his big break in history, I think, when, well, two of them, one when St. Paul took him up, and the second one 300 years later when the Emperor Constantine was converted, and that led to Christianity becoming the official religion of the Roman Empire.
Why do you say if he existed?
It's not absolutely certain. I mean, he almost certainly did, but I mean, his historicity is less authentic than most well-known characters of the time, like, I don't know, Julius Caesar or something like that.
People who believe they get their moral values from religion. Where do atheists get their moral values from, if not religion?
I very much hope that religious people don't get their moral values from religion.
But we know they do. We know many of them do.
We do not. If they did, then they'd be stoning people to death for showing an inch of skin. I mean, they do not get their morals from religion if they're the kind of people you want to know. If you've ever read many of the books, of the early books of the Old Testament, you would not wish to get your morals from.
I was just going to say, you're being awfully Old Testament with me here, but
well, why not? I mean, if you're going to say, well, I get my morals from the New Testament and not the Old Testament, you're picking and choosing. And you're picking and choosing on what basis? You're picking and choosing on the basis of a modern, contemporary view of what's moral. And where do you get that modern view from? You get it from something other than religion. You get it from the same place I get it from, because you and I'm willing to bet, pretty much share our views of the world. We pretty much share our view that we don't believe in slavery, we believe in the emancipation of women, we don't believe in cruelty, we don't believe in torture. These are all things which have come about in relatively recent years. They've come about not through religious influence. So wherever people get the modern criterion for picking and choosing those bits of the Bible that they decide to follow and those bits that they don't, wherever religious people get it, you and I can get it as well. Okay.